Be a bridge and elevate, uplifting women, connecting community.
Welcome to Be a Bridge and Elevate, where we uplift women and we connect communities. I am Tanika Cherie.
And I'm Ramonda S. Today we're going to talk about personal and professional challenges and setting goals. So today let's talk a little bit about that. I know from time to time I've had some challenges. We'll call them challenges, right? But for personally, some of my challenges in the past and in the present have been needing to take other people with me on my journey. On my journey to growth, on my journey to success, on my journey to just becoming everything that I feel God has designed me to be. And sometimes we don't always realize that that journey is not for everyone to take with you. And though you may be well-intentioned, that may not be what this whole journey was designed for. You can't take everyone with you.
Well, I found that I was wanting to take people with me because I had abandonment issues, but I didn't realize that.
Okay.
You know, I didn't realize that at the time. But when you constantly have people, leaving out of your life, or if you have loss or whichever, you can end up holding on to everyone that you have, not wanting to lose them, not realizing that people are in your life sometimes just for a season. Yeah. And then also, when you're riding on that elevator, no one rides all the way up to you, to your floor all the time. Everyone's always getting off on different levels. So why do we feel the need to keep people in our life as long as we do? I think what hurts me, or what hurt me the most, was it was abrupt. There's not always like a warning or whichever. Now. And then you think that people have your passion, or understand like your vision, and they're going to ride that thing out with you, and they have motives. That's what I don't like, is the motives. That's what I've experienced. And so, yes, sometimes you have to realize that you're just going to drive in that car alone, and that's okay. Right? We have to be okay with that.
I agree, and realizing that sometimes when people do get off, don't go back and pick them up. I mean, if they got off the ride, they got off for a reason, right? And you have to be honest with yourself and really take the time to assess that situation and say, okay, well, they knew what we were going to do. And if they're not here anymore, it's because our visions are different, our goals are different. Their ticket is Punch St. Louis, and I'm going to San Francisco. So, our directives have changed, and be okay with that. Sometimes it's disappointing, and sometimes it is hurtful.
I was just getting ready to say that. It's hurtful. I've had people walk out of my life because they didn't agree with the decision that I made for Tanika. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe they felt like I dealt with things longer than I should have. But no one knows what's right for you but you. And even if you do make a mistake, a true friend doesn't have to leave your life because you made a mistake or because of a choice that you made. If they're going to be there, they're going to be there. That's how I feel about it. And so
Did you
for
say
those,
ride or die?
well, I mean, and I can think of some young men and young women. You're like, oh, don't go that direction. But you don't stop being their friend. That's when people need you the most. If you see me, going the wrong way, don't leave me. Don't walk out of my life. I might need you to come drag me back. It's just that we all have to learn lessons, and the way that I learn a lesson, you may not agree with, but that's when I needed you the most.
Well, let me ask you this question. So what happens when you're in a friendship, just basic girlfriends, okay? What happens when you're in a basic girlfriend and you see them going down this road to destruction? You warn them, you don't go down this road with them, but then when everything goes to where in a handbasket, they come back to you with damage control. What do you do? Well,
I could have been that girlfriend. I was that girlfriend that kept going back and kept going back. But what people don't realize, sometimes when you go back, or I guess there's forgiveness. So it depends on what they're returning to, I guess that I would say. So we have to look at this from a case-to-case basis. Sometimes we do have to leave people's life, and I don't, I have nothing against those friends and maybe family or whomever, may have walked out of my life like over the years. I harbor no ill will for them. It's just that I feel like for me personally, being the age that I am and me being older and wiser, I understand the fact that you have to make mistakes. For example, there's a young lady who's like a little sister to me, and she's 20 years younger than I am. And I'm there for her, period. I've seen her grow. I've seen when she was struggling with some things. I've seen her angry, and then I'm seeing her mature, and I'm gonna always be there for her. And I've seen other people walk out of her life or judge her, talk about her behind her back, share her business with other people. No, I'm still there because she needs me. That's the problem. Why, why can't we decide that we're going to be there for someone? Because that's love to me. So that's all I know. That's love.
You bring up a good point. Okay, there's love, but where's the borderline? Where's the borderline between love and being a fool?
Well, that person has to decide.
Even in friendships,
what's best for
you
them.
have that too.
But it depends on what they've done, because the person doesn't offend me, and you have to know like history. Oh, let me just give you a hypothetical. But if I know a young lady who's been raped and who's been molested and is like really struggling to figure it all out and need that mentorship, there's just some behaviors and things that I expect to see, or I'm going to be even more forgiving because I know the person's background. And that's what I'm saying. People can overly abuse you. You don't have to let them do that. You have to know what's best for you and when to walk away. So, but I would just say there are certain people who are in my life where I've decided I'm just going to be there for them because of the unique situations. But for a girlfriend or someone who's constantly in your boyfriend's face, or someone who's constantly borrowing money and not giving it back, or someone who does, or someone who's always taking from you and not giving back, that's draining. You don't have to hold on to those draining relationships.
Okay. When you're talking about relationships and setting those goals, people do have challenges with the execution piece, right? Sometimes we can set these great lofty goals in our heads, all right? But there are different barriers that come up sometimes. Are those challenges internal within ourselves? Do we keep our own selves from a certain level of growth and development? Or do you see that those challenges are primarily external, driven by others, with variables that we can't necessarily control? Which one do you see as the greater influence?
Personally or professionally?
Either or. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
For me, sometimes there's been that challenge of insecurity with fear. Fear, maybe insecurity is the secondary, but the primary is fear sometimes. Wanting to do these great things, but then second guessing or wondering, what if? What if? Those are two really small words, but extremely powerful. They have the power to liberate you, or they have the power to open the gate and allow you to do everything that you could have imagined. So for me, sometimes that challenge is internal, where it has nothing to do with what anybody else did to me, for me, about me, around me, any of that. The challenge is more internal at that point, whereas some other people, it could be because you're in a relationship where you have a husband that won't let you pursue your dreams.
Case by case, and I think that it depends on the person. For example, when I was married for 13 and a half years, everything I did was based around my family, but I had help because my husband. But when he passed away suddenly, then all of a sudden I became a widow and a single mother. And I really felt the burden of having to make all the decisions, and everything I did was evolved around my children and how it affected them. And what was so hard is that a lot was going on internally, but then there were external factors beyond my control. Right. And when you feel like you're going to lose control, that's when you have to go and seek help. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later, but there was a lot that was going on within me for my own issues, because you know what's amazing is that we have a lot of things that may go on inside of us, but you can't heal it all at one time. Some things takes years, some things take time. Sometimes you don't realize some of the issues that you have until something happens. Yeah, you don't even know they exist, right? And so I would just say for me, a lot of it has been like my own internal thing going on, and then the external things outside of my control. It was outside of my control as well.
Yeah,
that's challenging.
That's a really good point.
It just kind of depends.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Don't forget to order your copy of The Mornings After, From Grief to Glory, a collaborative work including Tanika Cherie, author, speaker, motivator.
And I like the fact that you brought about responsibilities. Because sometimes when we have these different struggles, we have these different challenges, we don't have time to put responsibilities on hold, hit the pause button and say, you know, I'll be back when I can pull myself together and make this stuff
absolutely
actually work. We don't have that luxury sometimes. Sometimes you want to be able to just crawl into a corner and cry, put the pause button on, you know, get real ugly and snotty, and then, you know, pull it all together and then come back. But sometimes you don't even have that option. You have to keep things going regardless of how jacked up things are behind the scenes.
You have to put your face on. That's what's so hard about corporate America. I remember when I was going through the ups and downs of marriage, remember I told you information that was revealed like later. Being a survivor of domestic violence, I remember having to go to work the following morning, which was just a couple hours later, and put my face on like I had it all together. And so I wouldn't lose my job. I remember grieving after my husband. While I was at work, I had to act like I hadn't lost my mind, because I lost my mind.
Yes.
But for the sake of me not losing my job, making them feel like I don't think she's going to be able to do this right now, you know, do we need to move someone else in this position? Women, period, and single mothers, we are really good with putting this mask on like everything's okay, and it isn't. And we have to.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not fair, because we should be able to vent, we should be able to cry, we should be able to get it out. But unfortunately, you better do that thing between before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And see, what happens is if you don't do it in those schedule windows when you think it's safe to unravel and to let go, what happens? People see your vulnerabilities and they judge. They see your vulnerabilities and they judge you when they only know. Some of them don't know anything, right? Some of them don't know anything.
They'll take bits and pieces and they'll weave it all together. And you have to be careful at work, because a coworker genuinely, hey, are you okay? Is everything okay? Well, if you need anything, you know, let us know. Next thing you know, girl, I talked to Ramonda earlier, and and then there it is. So
yeah, suddenly you're on the memo. Suddenly you're on memo.
Bullet point, Tanika Cherie.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you set goals when it looks like your whole life is in chaos? That can be hard. And I know for me, sometimes just looking at the sheer enormity of a situation and realizing that there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, W-E-R-K. Sometimes there's a lot of work to be done, right? And then just thinking about what it's going to take to make all of that come into fruition, you start to panic. You get overwhelmed. You know, how do you organize your thoughts into actions? What are some of the things that you do?
Well, I have to make a list, whether I'm writing it down or typing it. I keep just, a program where I can write everything out and just kind of save it, or I'm making a jot list. But I make sure that when I'm prioritizing what's going on, families first, to make sure that my children are taken care of. And then secondly, finances. I always want to make sure I clear rent. And just like my main bills, we're keeping a roof over our head or whichever. And then everything else is after that. But there's something new I'm going to do in 2019 that hasn't been a priority for me, and that's my health. My health has not been a priority, and I'm over it. I was saying the other day, there's two things that I'm taking with me. There's two things I'm doing. I'm going to the gym, and I'm taking my attitude because I'm over it. I can't be there for my children, and I can't do a good job at work if Tanika doesn't feel well. Right. And it's not just about trying to look like some chick on BET or, getting my body banging and all. That's going to happen. I just want to be, but I'm going to be heart healthy, and I just want to be healthy so I can live.
No, I think that personal health is important. If we're not well mentally, spiritually, and physically, we're going to have some challenges.